All right, so Mark, since AMC acquired the rights to Anne Rice's iconic novel 5 years ago, you've led the charge in building out this whole television universe that includes Interview with a Vampire, Mayfair Witches, and the upcoming Talamasca. How do you approach this holistically as a producer, and are you aiming to keep them sort of visually and tonally similar or different vibes?
It's interesting. I've been with AMC. I've had a deal with AMC ever since we did Breaking Bad. So we did, I've done a number of shows, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and Halt and Catch Fire, and Rectify with AMC. And so we had a pretty good shorthand understanding and friendship. And they approached me with the Anne Rice books. They acquired 18 of them and said, would you be interested? And I don't know if I've ever admitted this before. I had not read Anne Rice, so I immediately did my homework and I said, that's a really great stuff here. And then I almost immediately met Roland Jones, who was already at work on the pilot for Interview with the Vampire. And those of you who don't know his work, the guy's a genius, and he somehow was able to take his interpretation of Anne Rice, still stay faithful to Anne Rice, and come up with something completely new. And so there, we had that, and we thought, all right, now let's go to the Mayfair Witches, and which is now in. We just finished airing its second season and just started Talamasca, which is something else entirely. It's a great franchise for me, and I think for the artists, in that it is each book, each series of books is different from the others. So there's very little in common between these shows, and every now and then we'll have a character we'll visit one from the other. But it's a great for a producer. First of all, she's an extraordinary writer, particularly if you place her in at the time when she was writing. For a woman to be writing the stuff that she was writing, pretty extraordinary. But it's just it's been a great opportunity.
How do you set the tone for the cast and crew so that everybody's on the same page? And how much do you sort of let them play?
That's really in Roland's hands, and he is a master of, well, Sam will tell you, just a master of giving you direction, or giving the director's direction for characters to interpret what he's written, but at the same time you have all the freedom to work within that, and it's almost like he describes the parameters and then watches you perform within it.
Tone is a really complex thing to get right in this show, because it is actually funny. Like, I think it's a comedy personally. Like, there are some like real ripper jokes in it, and but at the same time it's very, very traumatic and very bloody and very heightened. Like, there's a lot of screaming, a lot of crying, and so when you read that on a page, you as an actor, you're a bit like, okay, where do we pitch this? How do we get it? And, we have a lot of conversations with Roland. But really the most valuable thing that he does is he says, let me just play a piece of music that I'm thinking he was going to play. So then he'll play this extraordinary piece of classical music, or he'll play this really sort of surreal jazz beat piece that you think would never work in a scene like that, which completely gives you a point of direction to play. You think, oh, okay, we're going slightly off the wall here. We don't have to follow what you would expect to see, which allows people to make choices that are brave, I think. And he is a very brave filmmaker, television maker. There's a lot of second guessing through the process. There's a lot of anxiety and angst and a lot of discussion. But when he makes a choice, Roland really makes it very firmly, and we all just have to say, okay, we're really going to do that? He said, yeah, we're doing it. It's like, okay, we're doing that. So don't be afraid to make people angry. Don't be afraid to make people feel something when they're watching it now. But in 10 years, you're going to be proud of it. So it's a good ethos.
You're in a dark setting. you know, how did you think about incorporating the location and the history of it being against the backdrop of World War II in the things?
Well, New Orleans was a given the origin of the story. Reading the first book, we were actually at one point going to shoot season 1 and season 2 as a single season, and we realized that New Orleans had a large story to tell and completely different. I think thematically a completely different side. What happens is that, and for those of you who are familiar with it, at one point, Lestat is no longer with us in theory, and Louis and Claudia go off to Paris. We actually ended up shooting in Prague, and then we ended up with a couple of weeks of additional stuff in Paris. We needed, you know, it was a European search for, quite frankly, more vampires, for family. It was a quest for finding family, and with this newfound family and the specter of Lestat travel across the Atlantic with them.
When you're approaching this, do you ever feel pressure from that? You know, you're living up to the books, or what readers' book version of Lestat is in their heads?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. You know, I've grown to love it, the pressure. When we started, it was extreme pressure because obviously the film is so popular, and I thought, you know, Tom Cruise is like, it was, wow, that's what I'm going to try and find, you know, it's just so. But the good thing is that, you know, we're adapting all the books. We have the whole breadth of the Vampire Chronicles, Vampire's work to kind of adapt, so you could just kind of go back to the source material. But the best thing about there being an existing fan base, not just on the movie, but really from the books, is that there's so much material that you can find. It's a bit frustrating now because we have been absorbed into that material, so when you go looking for fan art or something, you end up finding a photograph or a picture of yourself like a nude on a bed. But the better things are, you know, finding those early works that you can see, and I had that in my trailer in my room when we were shooting season 1. I just had all of the fan art that I could find, every picture of Lestat that somebody had drawn from the 1970s, and I had just found it and put it up on my wall and looking at it going like, this is what this character is to all of these people. It's a very important thing. When you're dealing with characters that exist already in the psyches of an audience, it can be very personal, and to take that away from someone means you've lost from the beginning. Is that they're there to watch their show. It's their show. We make it for them, and it belongs to them. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure. But I've grown to like it, and we actually have a lot of fans who come and visit us on set, and you know, Roland is amazing. He seems to kind of like meet everyone and invite them to events, and so we do get to meet a lot of people, and you know, hear notes and hear ideas, and you know, it's great. It's like it's kind of like a feedback loop, flying or dancing around at the same time. But the first season, The Telepathy, was really challenging, and coming back to it in season 2, I had come up with quite a harebrained scheme to make it easier. So we record the scene, pre-record the scene, the telepathy scene, and have a ton of little earpieces. And I do this when I play music as well. I have a ton of little earpieces in my ear, so that I can hear like the piano, or if I can hear like the tempo being played. But we pre-record the scene, so you can do the whole scene. At the same time, you're hearing the conversation playing in your head, so you know when to like hit the beats or when you're looking, and that has helped. It does set you up. I don't want to say schizophrenic, but slightly mad, because you are kind of like feeling in your mind. But that's turned out to be the easiest way to like have a whole scene, you know, of telepathy.
So interesting, and again, especially the tonal shifts too, it just feels like you're being pulled in so many different directions, you know, especially again between the absurdist and the dark. And I'm thinking of that scene in the season finale where you and Louis reunite and there's a big passionate speech, and then in the middle you're like, Siri, pause.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I mean. I think it's funny. I think the show is funny. I think you have to play. The circumstances are absurd. Like, you just have to let them exist. You don't have to push it. The best thing to do when you have extraordinary circumstances is commit to it because it's real. You just have to make it real. And I think we've always done that from the beginning. So, okay, vampires are real. This is real. So, you know, like, that's the problem. How are we going to solve it? The problem with the character like Lestat is like, he's so extreme because he has no filter in the way that he can process his emotion. So, like, if he starts to get angry, he's just gonna, like, let it out. He just doesn't control himself. Which means he can do more extreme things, but it's funny. Like, it's ridiculous. You can step back and laugh at a person. But also, like, that scene, that's like a combination of work. Jacob and I worked together, you know, for 3 years. And we only shot that twice. I think they used the first take that we shot of it because we were running out of time. It was also the middle of winter in Prague, so we shot it on the soundstage in Prague, and it was like this, you know, set that was falling apart. It's blacked off behind, but behind the curtain is snow. It's snowing in Prague, and there were these, you know, stagehands with leaf blowers blowing leaves into our face and wind, and people like shaking the set. And, you know, it was just this mad situation. So you just have to kind of really trust your scene partner. And, you know, Jacob and I really trust each other. And Jacob's, like, just so extraordinary in this role. It's so easy to just kind of, you know, disappear when you're working with him. That you can do really silly stuff. Wake up in the morning and think, what did I do yesterday? But in the moment, you can just go there, you know, and feel uninhibited, and uninhabited by yourself, I suppose. Hope in general, or hope for the industry?
Well, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, right?
Gosh, it's hard to have hope, isn't it?
But I guess particularly for the industry.
Wow, what gives us hope? You know, gosh, do we have to have it? I actually think, in times of great adversity, there have been extraordinary art that has appeared from it. Like, you know, I don't want to get existential, but what is the meaning to anything? I mean, there's so much suffering everywhere, and to see it continue and also, you know, come right up to our front door. Now on a daily basis, you know, what's happening in the news and what's happening in people's lives and people that you know, and also the fact that people that you know personally can have such a polarizingly different point of view to you, and you can find yourself in extremely intense conversations with people that you have shared a house with and they shared your life with, and feel so alienated, you know, by that. Like, it's a very hard time to have hope. But I suppose if all we can do is hopefully say that the arts do communicate with people in a way that allows them to see themselves in a place that they might not have imagined previously. So if you can see yourself, and that's what one of this show does, which I think I feel really proud of, is that people feel seen. And if you feel seen, then you're able to, you know, find a new community or find a space where you can, you know, see other people, and then we can get out of this somehow, or at least build something new. I mean, that's the only thing that I can dare to say about hope in 2025, is that hopefully art can help us build new things.
On a much more prosaic level, look, our most romantic impulse is to be told a story or to tell a story. And we continue that no matter how we're being told the story, if we're listening to it, watching it, what we're watching it on, stories are going to continue, and there just aren't enough, and there's so many talented people. And I go on a set, I go onto our set, and just surrounded by people who are artists and who have something to tell and have sort of a beautiful and unique way of doing it. So I think we're just sorting ourselves out. It's an economic situation that will solve itself, and I'm confident that we will continue here in Southern California, continue to make or originate some of the very best art, certainly filmic and television art there is.
Hear, hear. Thank you so much for your time, Sam and Mark. Really appreciate it. Lovely.